my opinion, it's always I do think that there is climate change, and I think the Earth is warming. We can measure those statistically with the measurements we've taken over the last 100 years or so. We can tell that the Earth is warming. But are we doing the right things about it? I don't think so. I think we could do better. Like the other day, I was going to tell you this too. I save up all of my aluminum cans, my tin cans, my plastic bottles, my scrap metal. I save all that stuff. I don't throw any of that away, and I'll take it to a recycling place. My point is that the $4.50 that I made after saving up 3 months of recycling stuff doesn't bother me. But what it bothers me is that there's no incentives for people to keep doing stuff like that. They're going to throw their stuff into a bin because it's easier. They're not gonna bother taking it all, saving all their cans and taking it to a recycling place, because why would they do that for $3, for all these things? That's a lot of work.
Climate change activists feel there is a point of no return. Even if there is, shouldn't we be trying to mitigate or deal with these effects for the Earth and its population?
Now, like I said, I think that some of the measures we may take may still not stop that from warming. Okay. You had recently read an article about how that may be reaching the point of no return pretty soon, right?
From the Paris Accords, they say that if we get above 1.5 degrees, that's the point of no return, but their goal is to prevent the surface temperature or the air temperature from rising on above 1.3 degrees. And from the data that I've read this year, like last year in 2023, we reached that 1.3 degree rise. So we're already there.
Yeah.
So even if we make drastic changes, we're still going to have to deal with the effects no matter what we do.
That's a good point. So I that's one of my biggest pet peeves, is that we don't talk enough about mitigation effects and what we can do to handle these crises that are coming. Okay. To me, it's like saying, when you're a little kid, your mother says, "Don't go out in the cold. Don't go outside and play in the rain. You'll get sick. Okay. Yeah. So kids are going to do that anyway, right? Sometimes, so any good mother is not going to, if their kid goes out and plays in the rain, comes back in, they get a cold, they get a flu or something like that. The mother's going to go, "Well, that's your fault. You went out and played in the rain, so I'm not going to help you. I'm not going to feed you chicken soup. I'm not going to give you any medicine. I'm not going to help you drink your fluids. I'm not going to help you get rest. Okay, I'm not going to keep you all bundled up and warm." Okay, no mother would do that, right? They would try to help their child get better, right? Not stay sick. The flu can kill a child, right? If you don't treat it right. So we're talking about the same thing. The Earth is getting sick. Okay, we're all suffering from that. Okay, climate change is making things worse. So a lot of people, especially politicians, will go, "Well, we shouldn't have done this and we shouldn't have done that. I told you we should have gotten rid of oil and gas. I told you we should have killed all of our cows," or whatever they're saying, right? When they decide that's the solution, we should have done these things, we should be doing this. But that's not going to mitigate the problems that are maybe already here or starting to come.
We feel there are two major areas of mitigating climate change. The first one is combating sea level rises with structures in place of evacuating people where it is possible.
Let's talk about some of the mitigating efforts we could do to undergo addressing some of the problems from climate change.
The first one would be, I think, combating sea level rises, which is kind of our bigger threat right now, because we have over 600 million people that are near low coastal elevation areas.
Alaska is one of those big dangers.
Yeah, Alaska, right? And then a lot of Asia, the countries there are at risk. And so you're talking like several 100 million people, that are at risk. If their sea level rises, then what are we going to do about that, So it's important that they do things like they made man-made structures like dikes, levees, and seawalls. They do those. In addition, they enhance the natural landscape structures. Like they could plant dune grasses, or they could do something with the off-level shore and restore like estuaries and marshlands.
Yeah.
They could do all these measures, pump out sediments in certain areas into others, use pumping stations. And
that's something it'd be easy to do engineering wise. Not easy, but that's something that's doable as well. I don't think we're doing that enough of it all.
I think it's more important to do those kind of solutions first before we start evacuating people, because it will be more expensive to evacuate millions of people
Right.
rather than put up these structures that may cost a lot at first, but you're saving all these negative effects from happening. For example, if you don't take care of your freshwater supply, like if you don't pump fresh water into these aquifers or make sure that seawater doesn't get into them, then you're going to have a problem with maybe having to evacuate the people anyways.
Yeah.
Because they need fresh water. If the sea level rises happen, that's going to affect the freshwater aquifers. According to some world research, they think that the effects from climate change is going to have to displace at least 1 billion people. I don't think it's going to be that much. It could be several hundred million, but still, if you're talking about several hundred million,
people, yeah.
that's a lot of people. And so, for example, in Alaska, they are relocating people, and it's costing, what they're saying, it's costing at least 100,000 to $1 million per person. So probably the average is 250,000. So if you're talking 250,000 per person and you have hundreds of millions of people, just think how much money that is.
Money, yeah.
That's like tens of trillions or more dollars,
right,
to do that. So it makes sense to do these mitigation adaptation strategies for sea level rises and
right.
freshwater sources rather than relocate people.
The second mitigation area is upgrading the electrical grid for heating and cooling purposes, especially if global warming continues to become a trend.
So number 2 has to do with upgrading our electrical grid and our heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems.
Yeah, that's important. You were talking about at your house and at my house too. Our windows are starting to get old and not so efficient anymore, letting more heat in and stuff, and it takes a little more power to cool them down, right? So I think a lot of people have that problem.
But also there's certain types of house designs you can do, like passive house design and then compressed earth blocks.
Yeah.
So you make those, you can save a lot on your heating and air conditioning
Right.
systems. But in one of our videos too, we talked about solar geoengineering. We said that there could be situations where, like the East Coast or even here, if the temperature gets above like around 100 degrees or above 110 or something, the air conditioning systems stop working as much because there's more drain on the power grid.
Right.
So we need to make the electric grid more resilient and more powerful. That's what they need to do.
Yeah, our grid system is old and dilapidated and antiquated, and it's not efficient. And we've had about 2 or 3 videos about that. But there's definitely upgrades that need to be done, but they're going to be very, very costly, like you're saying. And so, but if they really, really care about mitigating some of these looming disasters from climate change, then that would be something that we're just going to have to bite the bullet and do.
So what do you think between the sea level rises and the upgrading the electric grid? How much do you think that we should invest in that?
I think it'd be worth spending, say, at least to get some of the major stuff and efficiencies and we talk about this, maybe having power plants, smaller, more adaptable power plants that you can turn off and on instead of the big, huge power plants, closer into the cities and stuff so you have more efficiencies. I think that would go a long way, and having some of the smart power production, plants that can all be networked. So, I think if you were to spend $1 trillion over the next 10 years, you could spread that out. I think that'd be well worth it, and that would solve not every problem, but it solves some of the problems.
Our takeaway message is that the people in charge, like politicians, need to think about what to do, as far as adaptation strategies, not just saying what we can or can't do. They need to look into what we can do to help populations and preventing more land degradation.
We'll wish everybody some good luck and good measures in mitigating climate change.
Exactly. Good point there, boy. I like that.